I do 1 year at a time. For me, I learned that especially after the back injury. I'm like, 1 year at a time, you can't predict what's going to happen after that. So at the moment, I'm going to compete at the games again as an individual, and I want to win the CrossFit Games.
This is episode number 57 with Annie Thorisdottir and Frederick Aegidius. Welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm Julie Fouché, medical student and former CrossFit Games athlete. Here, I bring to you information and inspiration from experts and everyday individuals for how to use lifestyle to maximize health. Thank you so much for joining me. Now let's get started with this week's episode. Welcome back to Pursuing Health. In this episode, I sit down with two-time Fittest Woman on Earth, Annie Thorisdottir, and her longtime boyfriend, who also happens to be a two-time CrossFit Games competitor, Frederick Aegidius. We caught up at the Reebok Athlete Summit earlier this year to talk about everything from their backgrounds to how they first met and how they've both evolved in their relationship and as competitors over the years. A little bit about Annie and Fred before we get started. Annie, who's also known as Iceland Annie to many, is a 7-time Reebok CrossFit Games veteran. She stood on the podium 4 times and won the title of Fittest on Earth in both 2011 and 12. She has a background in gymnastics, pole vaulting, and boot camp, and she made her Games debut in 2009 at the age of 19. Since then, Annie has been a staple in the sport, and she's known to train hard and always compete with a smile on her face. She's battled injuries, including a severe back injury that kept her out of the 2013 CrossFit Games season, and heat stroke that forced her to withdraw in 2015. She owns CrossFit Reykjavik in Reykjavik, Iceland, where she lives and trains with Fred for the majority of the year. Her boyfriend, Fred, is originally from Copenhagen, Denmark, where he grew up playing the team sports of handball and football. He competed in the Games in 2012 and 13 while working on his engineering degree in biotechnology from the Danish Technological University. Before we get started with our conversation, I have a few quick reminders. First of all, today we're launching a free trial of my online training program through Beyond the Whiteboard, Train with Julie Fouché. With the program, we make it as easy as possible for you to implement training into your busy life, whether you're working out in your garage, a Globo gym, or at an affiliate. This is the actual training that I do every single day. It fits into 5 60-minute sessions each week, and you can compare your times and scores with me on a daily basis. Sign up now through June 13th for access to the program for free for 2 weeks. I only run these free trials a couple times a year, so this is a great time to check out what we do. Head to trainwithjuliefouché.com for more info and to sign up. Finally, please remember that although I'm now officially a doctor, this podcast is meant to share the experiences of individuals and does not provide medical advice. So with that, let's get started here on episode 57 of Pursuing Health featuring Annie Thorisdottir and Frederick Aegidius. Welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm super excited to be here with Annie Thorisdottir and Frederick. You're going to have to tell me how to say your last name.
Frederick Aegidius.
Aegidius. Okay. I'm sure I've heard that before.
It's been butchered many times.
Yes,
so
but whenever I see it,
asking.
I have no idea. Well, it's so great to sit down with you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And
excited to finally be on a show.
I know. We're here on unfortunately, our last day in the Bahamas, but it's been an amazing trip. So have you guys had a good time?
Oh, so nice. Also because it's like the opposite in Iceland right now. So getting away from dark and snow into this is pretty awesome.
So true.
Yeah,
So true. I started to notice it in Cleveland. It's been pretty dark. I haven't seen the sun. The other day, I was standing by the window in the middle of the day and the sun was out and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I had been missing this. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, just waking up. We wake up at 6:30, 7 in the morning. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to get out. At home, you wake up at like 8 and you're like, oh, I could go for staying in bed for a little longer.
So true.
Definitely different.
So true.
So nice. Haven't gotten a lot of color, but
I know
it always takes my time.
It takes, it's
just be patient. I would need a couple of more weeks here.
It's a slow process.
Yeah.
Very slow. But I wanted to go back and just talk a little bit about both of you, your background growing up and with sports and before you even found CrossFit, kind of what you were involved in and how you set yourself up for success once you found CrossFit?
Well, I did gymnastics growing up. Did that for 8-9 years, something like that. So started very early and completely obsessed with it.
And did you do it through high school too, or?
No, I
Okay.
stopped exactly when I started high school.
Okay.
I stopped and I was like, all right, now I'm done with sports. I'm going to focus on just studying and yeah, nothing's going to interrupt that. And then I did very little. I did like a little bit of ballet and dance for like 1 year. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I have to do more.
Yeah.
Like, I need to train more. So I started doing boot camp. It was like 1 hour, like hardcore, just body weight movements. And did ballet and gymnastics with that as well. But all of a sudden, I was on like a school lane with that as well. So like if I would have been in a different school, like it would have counted for that. Like I was doing ballet 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Like 6 days of the week. So all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm in an intense program again.
Wow. I didn't know you did that much ballet. That's really cool.
So that was really fun. I did that for two years or something, but I felt like I needed a little bit more. So I was always doing boot camp with that as well, because I felt like I just wanted to, I don't know, release more.
Yeah, get the intensity.
I needed more intensity. I needed more competition.
Right.
Ballet is more like a show and dancing is more like a show. I wanted that like competition thrive.
Right.
And then I started doing pole vaulting. I did that for a couple of years, and I actually had the goal of going to the Olympics in pole vaulting. And then I was still, that wasn't enough for me. Doing pole vaulting wasn't enough. Like I needed more, what's it called? Variety? Yeah. Because I was always thinking the same thing. Sorry, still don't have all the words.
But you know what's funny? I watched a video from back when you were in 2009, the games, and I didn't realize how little English you knew back then. And like how great you are. Like now you would never know. It's amazing.
Thank you. I've gotten a lot better for sure. But yeah, looking at interviews from 2009 and 10 is like awkward, embarrassing listening to myself. It's like I had fish growing up. Like, oh, great. No, but yeah, I stumbled up on a CrossFit competition 2009 and won it and actually got a spot at the CrossFit Games. So I had about 2 months to kind of get ready for the games and see what it was all about. So I started learning a little bit of the Olympic lifts, a little bit of like the CrossFit gymnastics and those things. And then I competed at the games and I fell in love with it. I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Like during the dance and during the pole vaulting, there was always something missing. And then in CrossFit, like you have everything. You can't get bored. You're constantly pushing yourself. There's constantly something you have to work on. And if you get a little bit tired of this, then you start doing the other. Like, there's always something that you want to do when you get to the gym.
Right. I love that from gymnastics too, and track, because I did gymnastics and track too, and it was nice because you could go and do a track workout, but I didn't want to do track workouts every day. Yeah. And so I love that you can still do those kind of workouts, but you're getting so much more variety.
Exactly.
So true.
So you can keep on working on those things, but then you have, other things. When you plateau and like aren't getting better at one specific thing, then you can get better at something else.
Right.
Like there's always something that you keep on improving in.
So true. What do you think it was because it was a big trip for you to come all the way over to California just for that competition without knowing much about it. Yeah. So what do you think it was that intrigued you to actually go for it? Yeah.
Oh, what intrigued me was just that I got to go to the States.
Was that your first time?
No, I've been to the States before. Okay. But I loved it. Okay. So I was like, this is going to be like a holiday. And my parents were going to support me and like pay for the trip. I was like, dude, I'm going.
That's so cool.
And it's just going to be fun. So.
And then totally changed your life.
Totally changed my life. Pushed my Olympic dreams away. And I was like, I'm doing the CrossFit Games.
This is it. Yeah. That's amazing. What about you, Frederick?
So for me, I started out playing team sports. Okay. I was in handball, European handball.
Oh, cool.
For 13 years. Played in Division 1 in Denmark. I picked up American football as well when I was 14.
Wow.
So played both sports side by side. So there was a lot of time spent on the practice field.
Is that big in Europe or?
American football is growing. It's
Okay.
it's not something you would call a big sport, but
Right.
for a small sport, it's a larger one of the smaller sports.
Okay.
Yes.
On the scale there.
Exactly. So I played football up until I was 22. And we were introduced to CrossFit in one of our off seasons with our football team. So we brought the entire squad down there, 45 people.
Wow.
I was led through a range of different CrossFit workouts, more CrossFit football inspired than actual CrossFit. But I love the mythology, and me and a couple of my friends stuck it out after the 10-week off-season program. And I've always been extremely competitive, and being in a team environment, you rely on your teammates to have that same competitive drive. And given that American football wasn't as competitive as I wanted it to be in Denmark, there were a lot of slackers that could get away with it because they were physically superior,
Okay.
even though they didn't put in work. So for me, getting into CrossFit allowed me to basically put in all the hard work that I wanted, and the results of my hard work would show. Like I didn't have to rely on 10 other people on the field
Right.
for me to do well. And I think that's what drove me to continue my path in CrossFit.
That's interesting because coming from individual sports, that's all we know. But
Yeah.
coming from a team sport, it's totally different. A very different experience competing. All you have to rely on is yourself. But then also, in that sense, you don't have to depend on other people. So
I think you guys have a big advantage in that you've dealt with a lot of that pressure of just being you alone out there on the field of play. I think that's something that's extremely important in CrossFit. Everybody who makes it to the CrossFit Games are incredible athletes. But the selected few that sets themselves apart, those are the ones that have that mental capacity to overcome all the obstacles that they're faced with out there. And I'm not saying it's all the people that have a background in individual sports, but there is a clear majority of people that have already dealt with all of those emotions before.
Right.
So I think it's definitely an advantage for you guys.
Yeah, you think about just how many meets you've done growing up and just how much over time that prepares you. Or it's very similar to gymnastics meet where there's multiple events and you're doing them all by yourself. But I noticed there's some people who are amazing in training, and then once they get on the competition floor, everything changes just because they're not used to being in that environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the competition experience comes in.
Yeah.
And I think even though we did individual sports growing up, I definitely needed a little bit experience.
Oh yeah.
In CrossFit competitions, it definitely helped. I went to the games 2009 and I didn't think it was uncomfortable at all because I was used to doing events by myself. But then throughout the year, I think it's almost not enough for me just to do the open regionals and then the games. I think it's really nice to have one or two other, even if it's just small competitions in there, just to get that
right.
Yeah, this is the feeling I want to have. Yeah, this is the drive and the nerves, it's in the right place. I always get nervous before I compete.
Oh yeah.
But it's a question of how nervous you want to get. And I think having a couple of extra competitions throughout the year gives you that confidence, yes, this is how I want to feel before I go and compete.
So true. So true. And hard to find that balance. I know there's been years where there's been a million off-season competitions and people have done so many, and then sometimes it's detrimental, but then other times I think doing one or two is definitely helpful to prepare.
I agree. I usually don't do hardly any of the ones here in the States or those. There's so many.
There's so many now.
And it's so hard to pick. So it's picking something that you're interested or fits exactly within the schedule or where I want to travel or even just a local competition at home or something. It's just nice to have it in there.
Absolutely. So how did you guys meet?
Oh, we met at regionals.
Back in 2010 in Sweden.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So that was the first regionals?
That was the first,
First year regionals.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and then that was your second year competing, your first year competing, Fred?
Yes, that was my first year.
Wow. And then was it like love at first sight or what happened?
Well, we actually didn't really talk
We
throughout
didn't
the
talk
entire
to each other
weekend.
at all that weekend.
Really?
It wasn't until like after the competition. We
Okay.
had a mutual friend.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of how we started talking. We didn't start dating until like end of that year, really. So like half a year later.
Okay.
After all the Facebook messages, it makes it difficult. Like he's in Denmark, I'm in Iceland.
Right.
It's like
It's not that close.
no, it's not that close.
not at
It's
all.
not that easy to jump on a date.
Right.
So it was a lot of talking, getting to know each other a little bit beforehand. And
Right.
Then, yeah. Then all of a sudden, he came to
It was an
Iceland.
interesting experiment, yeah, because you don't just do like a one-day trip to Iceland. So
Right.
Oh,
I think the first trip I took to Iceland was 6 days. So like
Yeah.
that's
It's a lot of together time
that's a
for
lot
a
of
first
together
date.
time.
Exactly.
Exactly. If it doesn't work out, like you're stuck on an island in the middle of the ocean.
well, we had gone on a couple of days before that.
Okay.
I had gone to Sweden for a competition. He came to meet me. And
Okay.
then I had gone to Copenhagen for like a seminar.
Okay.
I was teaching the level
Level
ones,
ones.
and we like met up, and then yeah, all of a sudden
We had the fastest
he-
tour of sightseeing downtown Copenhagen
Oh, yeah.
ever. We're
I was so
basically
nervous.
running.
He like
You
gave me
see
sightseeing
everything.
tour of downtown Copenhagen. It was like a jog almost. It was so fast.
Kind of get your workout in while you're
Yeah.
sightseeing. Oh,
But it
that's
was-
awesome.
That was good. And then he came to Iceland, stayed there for like 5-6 days, and yeah, then it's all in because I still lived at my parents,
Mhm.
so it wasn't just like meeting my parents for dinner one time.
Yeah.
He stayed in the same place as my parents.
Wow.
So
That's intimidating.
A little bit.
Well, clearly it worked out well. So.
yeah, it worked out really good.
That's good. And then you guys have been kind of back and forth, right? Between Denmark and Iceland.
Yeah.
And now you're more settling.
Well, he was finishing
I was
school.
finishing up
Okay.
school, so we spent a significant amount of time there because I couldn't take a lot of
Right.
time off school, and
Right.
I still wanted to have Annie there. So you were in Denmark for 8 months or so,
Yeah.
while I was finishing up at my engineering degree, and then once that was all done and settled, we had a little
Mhm.
more flexibility. Spent some time in New York, some time in Iceland, and still have an apartment in Denmark. So we're a little bit all over the place, but mostly in Iceland at the
Okay.
moment. Yeah.
It's really nice to have like the base.
Yeah. Just
Have
a
it
home
different
base.
places.
Mhm.
We have our own apartment in Iceland.
Mhm.
So that's kind of our home base at the moment. But then we're renting a place in Denmark, so we
Mhm.
always have like
Somewhere
we
to
can always
stay,
go
yeah.
there, so it's easy to go and see his family, and I think that's really important,
Mhm.
just so that it never becomes like an issue going to Denmark.
Right.
And then we were in New York for a few months, and we loved it there. So it's really nice that our friend has an apartment there that we can
Mhm.
stay at every time we want to go and visit New York. So usually when we go to the States, we try to fly through New York and
Yeah.
like stay a couple of nights, meet up with friends, and yeah. So I feel so fortunate to have so many places that I just love going to
Mhm.
and staying at, and kind of feel like I have a home in all of them.
That's awesome. And that you guys can go together. That's so
Exactly.
nice.
That makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Makes traveling so much more fun.
Definitely.
Those 10+ hour flights, at least you have someone with you going through the misery.
Yeah, that's a long trip. That's a
Yeah.
long trip. So, Fred, when did you finish your school?
I finished back in late 2014.
Okay.
So I have an engineering degree, and then
What type of engineering? Or is it a general?
it's in biotechnology.
Oh, okay.
So it's a civil engineering degree from the Danish Technological University.
Wow.
So specializing in bacteria mainly.
That's so cool.
So nothing to do with what I'm doing right now, but hopefully I'll get back into that later.
You think eventually you'll go back and use it somehow?
I will. I've also from a training perspective, I'm very interested in all the science behind it.
Okay.
So I did a couple of projects at the University of Copenhagen that actually linked me into the sports science world.
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna try to see if I can make my education worthwhile, like down that stretch, at some point once I'm done with all this fitness stuff at the highest level.
Right. That's amazing. It's so cool to hear. I think there's so many people, games athletes that you don't even know that have really interesting educational backgrounds. But,
Yeah.
that maybe, it'll be interesting to see what people do with it someday when they're done,
I agree.
competing or doing all this.
Because I feel
CrossFit
like
stuff.
there's still such a big gap left there, like within the CrossFit world, to investigate what what this kind of physical regime actually do to you. Like I
Oh.
know there are a lot of variables, but there is so much you can still investigate.
Absolutely.
And I think that would build a lot of credibility to the mythology compared to right now where there's just a lot of people saying like this.
Right.
This
There's
program
not
really
a lot
works.
of hard data or research to back, or
No.
I mean, there's a lot of evidence anecdotally and, you know, by seeing the results that we're getting, but it's true. It would be great to see more
Something that's not just empirical.
paper. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see that. So I hope that more and more athletes are going to go down that path because you can tell that even though they have a background in something else, that they're so dedicated to this. So it's only a matter of somebody giving them the opportunity to pursue this. And I hope somebody will decide to fund some of these studies because I think it will be extremely interesting to follow up on.
Absolutely. What about you, Annie? So it's interesting because I started after you, but we both started out, and I know you were thinking about going into medicine.
Yeah.
When I started, I was already like well down the path. So there was really no turning back for me. But I tell people this all the time. I wonder if I had found CrossFit a few years earlier, I probably wouldn't have started medical school. You know, I probably would have waited. So
yeah, that's kind of, it's so funny when people ask me like that question, what would you be doing if you wouldn't have found CrossFit?
Yeah.
Been doing CrossFit. Like, I know exactly what I would be doing. I will be on my last year in medical school in Iceland because me and my girlfriend, we did everything together and we definitely would have been. She's about to finish now, so I'll be finishing now. And it's really weird to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't regret any decisions. Like, this is what I want to do. I've taken a few courses that are going to help in case I will go into medicine. Then I've done some of those base courses just like with CrossFit. Then I do one course more in chemistry and one in biology and whatever, just to get a few in there. And also just not forget how to study.
Right. Oh my gosh, it's hard. Even when I took 1 year off, it was so hard to get back into
like
the routine.
I can imagine. I think it's going to be really hard for me when I decide to go back to school to like go full-time school. It's definitely going to take a few months to just get used to it. But it is something that I am kind of excited to do. I definitely want to keep on doing CrossFit until I don't feel like doing that anymore. But I do want to go back to school. I want to finish some education. I'm not sure if it's going to be a doctor anymore, but I've been doing a few courses in just like sports psychology or seminars and so on, just to try to learn more about that. I'm really interested in how that works, and that fits so well into what I'm doing at the moment. And I think that's why I'm so interested in it. So you never know. I think I don't know what I want to do. Maybe even a dentist. No.
Their possibilities are endless.
New. But I do know that I want to travel a little bit and do a few seminars and just with the things that have helped me, like that positive attitude and how you can affect your life, not just like in fitness, but just in general, with trying to push away all the small things that irritate you. And it's crazy how many small things can affect people.
It's so
and
true.
if you can learn to like just block those out and appreciate the things that are around you, that's something that I'm really interested in, and hopefully something that I'm gonna pursue and with something else as well. I don't know what that something else is gonna be.
What do you think are some of the other, like, you know, don't sweat the small stuff, but what do you think are some of the other things that you've learned through years of competing in CrossFit that maybe you didn't know 5 or 6 years ago?
Oof.
Or just, you know, attitude things or ways that you approach things mentally?
Well, at the moment, or what I feel like was a big difference for me, I was always thinking about just winning the CrossFit Games. Like, that was the only thing that mattered to me, was to win the CrossFit Games, and that was my focus. And that's really hard to have that as the focus. And yes, that can be your goal, and that's still my goal. But then once you come into the competition, there's a lot of pressure riding on just that
one goal,
that moment. So now, like, when I approach it is, yes, my goal is to win the CrossFit Games, but the only results that I can affect is my own results. I can't affect how all the other girls are going to do. Hopefully, and what I need to just believe in is that my training and what I've been doing is going to be enough. And hopefully that's going to get me to the top of the podium. If it doesn't, then someone else was just better. And there's nothing I can do about that. All I can do is just try to perform as well as I can do, and more focusing on one event at a time instead of always thinking about that end result.
Right.
And I think that changed how I felt during the CrossFit Games. Like 2012, I was miserable throughout the CrossFit Games. I didn't do that well in the first events, and then I did really bad on that like track bar muscle up event, and I was like, I don't stand a chance of winning the games anymore. I'm so far down the leaderboard.
Right. Because all you're thinking about is that end goal instead.
So this is done. Like, I can just as well quit. And that's like a horrible attitude to have going into the games there, because I looked at everything other than first place was going to be a disappointment because I had won the games before. So if I wouldn't win now, that means I've gotten worse. And I'm not willing to do that. So this sucks. I've worked so hard for it. I'm just going to stop. And then I was like, all right, whatever. I'm not going to win the games. I just decided I'm not going to win the games. So I'm just going to try to show people how good I am. And I'm going to try to win the rest of the events. I'm like, this event looks awesome. I'm going to do as good as I can on this event. And then finally, I felt like I found like that drive and fire again, like enjoying being on the competition floor, enjoying walking out there, like trying to experience and remember like the feeling when you walk out. You know the feeling when you walk out into that tennis stadium. Like, I don't know. There's nothing to describe that.
Right. It's so magical.
It's so emotional, and it's like your heart rate is going so crazy and you're so excited to just start. You're like, come on, just let me out. Just let me get going. Let me show you what I can do with that barbell. But like enjoying those moments, and like I feel like I remember so much more of the games after I started doing that. So that was like a huge change in the way that I was thinking, was the way I started thinking after I thought I couldn't win the games anymore. Like when I thought it was done, all of a sudden it was so much more fun, and I started doing so much better and actually ended up winning. So that was like the pinnacle of it.
Right.
But that wasn't really what I was focusing on anymore. That's a bonus. So
that's amazing. So it was that 2012 year that you think was a big shift in
that was a big
how you
shift
approached
mentally
it.
for me. Yeah. Where I got to know myself a lot better.
Frederick, what has it been like for you to watch Annie over the years and how she approaches competition?
It's obviously very, very emotional being on the sideline.
Yeah.
Like when you're out there on the competition floor, you can actually affect the outcome.
Yeah.
When you're standing there on the sideline as a coach, like there is nothing you can do besides crossing your fingers and hoping that everything will go well. But I've definitely seen a change in her since the first years of competition, and she's taken that change on the competition floor outside as well, and you can tell that she's changed her mindset and trying to enjoy each moment a little bit more, like focusing on just doing the best she can at the task at hand instead of focusing on that end goal. Like there's no doubt it helps to know where you're going, but if that's the only thing you have in your mind, you're going to miss some steps along the way. And I think it's helped her find calm. Not necessarily comparing herself to everybody else around her, but just to where she needs to be at this given moment in time. And as a competitor, I think that's incredibly important, but even more so as a human being. It's so easy to just look at all the darkness out there, especially given that you're from Iceland. It's dark like 9 months of the year. So it's very easy to get very negative and focus on the small things that are not going your way. But she's done a great job trying to turn that around. And I think in turn that's something that she could teach other people as well. Like that smile on the competition floor, like back in 12, it might have been forced. But now it's real. And those emotions are something that a lot of people could learn from and apply in daily life.
Absolutely. I think they always say sport teaches you about life, but I think competing at CrossFit is the ultimate. You learn things so quickly because you just don't have, you're constantly put into uncomfortable situations. You're constantly having to adjust and evolve, and
you never know what's going to be thrown at you. I'm definitely not perfect. Like, I still have so many things to work on, and I still have those like moments where I'm like, why am I doing this?
Right.
I think everyone has had that thing.
Right.
When you're in the middle of the ocean and getting kicked, you're like, what am I doing here?
Like, why am I doing this? So true.
Like, yeah, there's definitely, I feel like I've learned so much in those few years doing CrossFit. Yeah. And even like my back injury, I felt like I learned so much about myself and about my body, about the community.
Right.
Like,
it's those setbacks, you know, they teach you so much more because you're forced. You know, when things are all butterflies and rainbows, it's easy to just keep doing what you're doing.
It's very easy to keep on smiling and be like, oh, this is fine and this is easy and all of that. Yeah, it's those hard moments that actually teach you the most.
Absolutely.
I know it irritated me a lot when people kept on saying that when I was going through that back injury. It's like, I'd much rather learn it with a less severe injury and just learn it. But I do think they were right, and I feel like I learned so much going through that. And the same thing, getting the heat stroke at the games, I felt like I learned again so much about myself. Again, I didn't feel like I had to learn it, but if you have to look at the positives, I do feel like I grew from that as well. So there's all of those. There are so many crazy things that you experience at the games, and I think they built you up as a person and as a character.
What do you think was your most difficult moment at the games, or was there a time where you thought,
just in general?
Yeah.
I think my most difficult moment was probably during Murph at the games.
Yeah. That looked like a lot of people's most difficult moment. That was hard to watch.
Like, that's something that I would like to just forget. But it's definitely something that stands out in memory.
What is it like for you guys to compete together? Because, you know, I know when I'm competing, I need someone to be there to support me. But if your significant other is also competing and going through it, how do you guys handle that?
It's definitely a tough one to figure out. We've always had at least from my perspective, had a very clear line. Like, I know that what matters the most is Annie's performance, and I think that has honestly helped me tremendously because I don't have any time to get nervous because she is over the moon nervous all the time. So I have to convince her.
Helping him out with being nervous.
So that's how we turn it into a positive.
He can't even worry.
No, he doesn't have time to do it himself. Yeah. So
for me to actually put that, like, try to calm her down, put that into words, like, because I can listen to that at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Pep talk we have a great team around us to give us the support we need when we're both competing. But there is no doubt that it is tough because we're each other's biggest supporters, and we're great at calming each other down. So if there's a time where the other person is not present, like, it definitely brings a little extra nerves out there.
Actually, I think probably for me the hardest thing is when we're competing together. Like, the females go and we finish all the female stuff, and then the men go and finish all the men's stuff. But that means that our days become so much longer than the competition, because the girls might not have to start until a certain time, and then we might be done 2 hours earlier than the guys, and then all of the girls go home while I'm still there, and I'm still worrying and stressing for him and wanted to be there. So I feel like our days become significantly longer.
They do.
That's true.
But on the positive side, I feel like having someone that is going through the same thing and experiencing it together is something amazing that I really enjoy.
Right.
And also, like, when we've been at the games together, going to the dinners together, like, we have such a big support that we have from each other. We can be in the athlete tent together instead of that coach-athlete relationship that comes up. But so I feel like there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons, but in the end, I think it zeroes itself out.
It just works out.
Or ends up on the pro side.
I would say so.
Well, I think it's working for you. So
I think so. Regionals is usually pretty easy in my mind. Like, I feel like I can watch him a little bit more because it just sometimes it feels easier. It's not as
it's a more calm environment.
Yeah, you know what to expect. It's
everything
not so
is in
crazy.
the same venue. Everything like follows that same routine.
Right.
You know all the events beforehand. So I know exactly how he has done in training. He knows how I've done in training. So we can more focus on just ourselves.
Yep.
And like I said, we have an awesome coach behind us. Yami Tikkanen has been working with me since 2010 and with both of us since 2011. So we have a long relationship with him as well. And he knows us as characters and what we need. And then the same, we have like a physio, Matthew Martin from London that comes to all of our events and makes sure that the bodies are feeling good. So there's not a lot of things that we have to think about other than just eating and recovering and then going out and doing what we do in training.
That's amazing.
So that makes that easier. It's more the games that get difficult when we're both competing there.
Sure. So do you both do almost the same programming, or do you have differences in the training that you do?
There's slight differences, but 95% of it is going to be the same. Because we're like both of that believe that it matters more how you do things than exactly what you do. Like we have full confidence that our coach is having us do the right things. And having a training partner who's going through the same thing every single day is crucial. Like I could not recommend that enough, like for people out there.
So
Instead,
true.
there's so many people that are so stuck in their ways, having to follow their own program. But find people that push you.
Right.
Not necessarily like a competition setting every day, but find people that make you better and stick with it.
It's so true. There was a couple years where I had a consistent training partner who would do all my workouts with me. And then one year in there where I was mostly training by myself, and the difference was like night and day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Just that pull almost to like go to the gym.
Yeah, it just makes it easier. Even if
Yeah.
some mornings we'd go at 7 a.m. or 6:30, and if that person wasn't going to be there, I know I wouldn't be at the gym that early, and I
exactly.
definitely wouldn't be pushing myself that hard.
And then it might take longer warming up or
Right.
whatever if you just by yourself, you're
Right.
chilling, and then
Once
all
they
of a sudden
know
the
you,
session becomes so long, and then it's like, maybe I shouldn't do all of this.
right,
Like if you have a training partner, it's like, oh, we're doing this first.
Right.
Now we're doing this.
right,
And even for us, I think it helps a lot that we're always pushing each other. But even we have a lot of good training partners in Iceland that train with us, and in
Oh, that's great.
Denmark they train with us, and then in New York the same thing. We have like really good competition, and what I feel like is the most important there is that the people that we train with are like, they're so driven, they're so positive,
Right.
and they're excited about training. And I think that gives almost more than having someone that's gonna push you a little bit more in the workout. Having someone that's like, oh yeah, no, we're doing this, oh my god, I can't wait to do that workout. Like,
right.
I think that makes a big difference.
So true. That environment is so
Yeah.
key. And once your training partners know you pretty well, they know when to push you or when to say,
Exactly.
no, you're doing that again, or you're adding 5 more pounds because I know you can do it.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference over time.
I agree.
That's awesome.
I think that's really important.
It is.
So the plan, what is the plan? You guys you said keep competing until it's not fun anymore, or until?
I do 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
For me, I learned that especially after the back injury. I'm like, 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
You can't predict what's gonna happen after that. So at the moment, I'm gonna compete at the games again as an individual, and I want to win the CrossFit Games.
Not much has changed.
No, there's not a lot that has changed there. That's still on the top of the goal list.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never know what's gonna be after that. I do know that at some point I'm gonna want to go team, because like we were talking about before, I've never done team
Yeah.
sport, and I think it would be awesome to like have someone to
Right.
experience it with, and
That would be
like-
a unique thing for both of you to be individual competitors and then compete together as well on a team. That would be so cool.
I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, we had 2 opportunities to do so at the Invitational in 13,
Yeah.
12 and 13, but we just set that season out. Like I hurt my back,
Okay.
In 2012,
in
where
12.
we were both supposed to be competing together.
and then she was hurt in 13. So we have to this date still not managed to be on the same team together. So I'm very excited for that to happen at some point.
Yeah,
That'll be
hopefully
very
that will
fun.
happen this year. I'll win the games. Frederick will be top 10 of the games. Win the games.
And we can retire
never
happy
know.
and go
Yeah.
team.
Happily ever after.
And then we'll go to
Exactly.
invitationals together, and then we'll do a team together.
Perfect. I can see it now. Awesome. Well, I want to finish with 3 questions I ask everyone.
Okay.
So first one, and you can answer together or separately, it's totally up to you. First one is 3 things that you do on a regular basis that have the biggest positive impact on your health.
For me, that will probably be getting enough sleep. It would be making sure that I get a proper breakfast. And then that I every day do something to increase like mobility or flexibility.
Okay. How much sleep do you get?
We aim to get 8.5 hours plus.
That's great. So important for recovery.
I think for me, it's the sleep. I need that for recovery. Like, it is crazy. If I don't get enough sleep, then my back is stiff and my knees are tight.
Yeah.
And then when I sleep for long enough, I'm ready to train. Like, so that's probably like the number one thing for me. Then I think making sure that I eat enough throughout the day. That's something that I'm working on. And the same thing with drinking, making sure that I drink enough throughout the day.
Right.
That's like...
It just seems to be such a struggle for you.
It seems to be really hard for me.
Not drinking enough
All
water.
of a sudden, like, in the evenings, like, I have not had more than like a liter of water today or whatever. And with all the training that you do, that's definitely not enough.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to drink too much in the evening because then I'm going to be waking up in the night, going to the bathroom, and that's going to ruin my sleep. So it's an evil circle.
So hard, yes.
The issues I have. No, that's something I'm really working on.
Okay. That's good. And do you guys do anything specific for mobility or stretching or?
Well, we have the massage bends out every night.
Yeah.
Do like a little bit of
Nice.
Graston, some mashing. So that's usually like the...
We don't use it quite enough.
Not enough, no.
We use it. We do a lot of Graston.
Okay.
I feel like that helps. I love saying that I used to have knee issues. I used to have pretty tight knees, and they tend to tighten up if I don't stretch the quads enough. I just have long femurs.
Yeah.
So I need to stretch a lot, and I always stretch in the evenings and use the compacts or something to like get the blood flow. But then the Graston tools or the hot grips tools that we use are like, I did not believe in this stuff. But it works. At least for me, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
So just like doing that in the evening, like 10, 15 minutes on my legs, on the shoulders if they're getting tight. And it's something that I can just do in front of the TV, which I like.
Right.
And I feel like I'm doing something that's going to make my training better the day after. So that's
good. I loved the hot grips. I used a lot for my Achilles when I was rehabbing, and that helped so much.
It's crazy how much it can help.
That's great.
We even, before we got the hot grip tools, we were like using spoons and knives. We like said, I was like, oh, can you do my forearms? And he would like be there with the spoon doing my forearms.
Well, I'm glad you got the right tools.
Now we got the right tools for it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question is one thing that you think would have a positive impact, but you just have a hard time implementing it, or it's hard to do on a regular basis.
I think for both of us, getting like regular blood tests just to make sure that like the nutrition is on point. It's something that is like, it's so crucial what you put into your body and to make sure that you actually respond well enough. Like even if I would eat perfectly, for me, that might not be perfect for Annie. And given that we're spending every waking moment together, we might need to make some adjustments. And that's something that should be relatively simple to do, not take a lot of time, but just for some reason there seems to be a hurdle for us to actually get there.
What is your general approach to nutrition?
Like we try just to, like in general, just try to eat healthy. Like we just recently started measuring our food again just to make sure that we would get enough calories.
Yeah, that was more to figure out if what we were eating, because we believe what we were eating was pretty good. Just making sure that it was still the right amount of calories that we were getting in throughout the day.
Yeah, so it's not like we're eating like strict paleo or anything like that. Like we don't eat a lot of bread, not a lot of pasta. Try to get us.
Never eat pasta.
Never eat pasta.
I miss lasagna.
So sad.
Yeah, it is so sad. I had the mac and cheese yesterday. It was amazing.
Oh yeah,
that looked really good.
No, but yeah. Like you
So
said, we cook most of our meals ourselves, especially when we're in Iceland.
That's
like we
so
do
nice.
everything ourselves. There's one restaurant that we go to that has like these salad bowls, glow, that we eat at least once a day. And that helps out a lot. But otherwise, he's very good in the kitchen. I'm learning. I can make breakfast really well.
Breakfast is, just stick to breakfast,
really
let him do dinner.
Oatmeal and fried eggs.
Yes.
Done.
I crush it. But yeah, it's very good that he enjoys it, because then he will read up on more recipes. Otherwise, I love having Mexican food.
Oh,
like,
so good.
Just the Mexican spice and rice, and I'm happy. Like, that's my go-to
Keep it
meal.
simple, yeah.
Yeah, I keep it simple, but it's so good, and I don't get tired of it. But it is nice to have a mix in there every once in a while.
Little variety, yeah.
But yeah, we eat healthy. There's just a question if we're eating enough, or getting enough carbs, or enough fat, or whatever. And yeah, that's why we started measuring a little bit more now.
That's good. Do you try to shoot for a 40-30-30 breakdown, or is there a specific?
A little higher on the carbs.
Okay.
We do a lot of like longer pieces, especially during the off season. So we need to fuel up just a little bit more. So it's probably around 50% on the carbs.
Good. Nice. Last question is, what does a healthy life look like to you?
To me, it's just being able to do what you love to do, like being able to move around, not need any assistance to do the things that you would do on a regular basis. Especially as you grow older, just having the muscle mass to be able to support your body, like being able to move around and do all the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Like you see your, like some like we all have grandparents, and some of them are like still active, like out playing golf, like out walking their dogs, and then like the other half of the grandparents are just like these like big lazy couch potatoes. And it's clear, at least to me, to see like which ones are happier.
Yeah.
Even though they both might be smiling, like there's definitely a significant difference.
Absolutely.
The other ones just don't know any better. They don't
No.
know
Right.
how
They don't know
good
how
it could be.
Exactly.
And I think that
Exactly.
goes for a lot of people. I think they feel really good, but once they might change their diet and their lifestyle, I'm not saying that people should be doing, no one should be doing CrossFit to the extent that we're doing it.
Right.
Like, everyone that does professional sports do too much of it.
Right.
Like, in all sports. But CrossFit for the public, like, I think that's one of the best things that you could do. Like, I wouldn't put my parents in it if I didn't believe that it was one of the best things for them. And they talk about it. They feel so much better. They go usually in the morning, like 6 or 6:30 a.m.
Wow.
And then they're like ready for the day, and they feel better, and they feel like they have more energy. And I think exercising, that I'm not saying they're not doing intense workouts, just exercising in the beginning of the day or sometime during the day is gonna make you eat healthier and
Make better decisions.
yeah, exactly. I even feel it when I'm sick or something and I haven't been able to train for 2 days. I'm already feeling like I have more cravings for unhealthy food. I feel like
Just have low energy. Yeah.
so low energy. I feel like I'm getting depressed because I'm not training. I know that I'm probably more addicted to it than most people are, but still, it's like just those 2 days. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get to the gym. I need to get out of here, even if it's just for a walk, for fresh air.
Right.
Like, I just need it. So I think people that stay inside, especially if you're working in front of a computer all day, just getting out, fresh air, moving around, jog, whatever, I think people will feel so much better to me than just a little bit of exercising a day and eating fairly healthy. And that's a healthy lifestyle for me.
Make a huge difference.
Yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sitting down with me. It was so
thank
good to
you.
hang
This
out.
was
Thanks for having us.
awesome.
Yes, and we'll all be cheering for you this season, so it'll be fun to watch.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I've loved getting to know Annie and Fred over the years, and even better in this conversation. The dedication they have to one another and to their training is truly inspiring. I'm excited to be attending the Meridian Regionals this coming weekend and to have the opportunity to cheer both of them on in person. Do you enjoy working out with your significant other? Why or why not? How do you best support one another in practicing a healthy lifestyle? Let me know in the comments below this post on juliefouché.com. To make sure you never miss an episode and to receive exclusive content from me, head to my website, juliefoucher.com, where you can subscribe to my email list. Also, don't forget to share your stories. If you or someone you know has used lifestyle to overcome a serious health challenge, please email me at info@juliefoucher.com. I'll choose some of these inspiring stories to share here on the podcast in future episodes. If you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and consider giving the podcast a 5-star rating on iTunes. Also, don't forget you can train with me by visiting beyondthewhiteboard.com/juliefoucher. I always love hearing your feedback, so please leave comments under this post on my website, juliefoucher.com, and share your thoughts on social media with the hashtag JFHealth. Thank you again so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on Pursuing Health.